Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wausau's Real Estate Podcast. My name is Cody Hoelscher here, team member of the Solomon Group Coldwell Banker Action, joined by another team member, Lucca Tonelli. Lucca, tell us, what are we going to be discussing in today's podcast?
Well, I appreciate that, Cody. It's great to be here. What are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about a 2023 spring market update. So if you're getting into the marketplace, right, buying or selling, or just curious at what's kind of going on in the Wausau market right now, this is going to be a great episode for you to tune into. And we're going to kick it right off with inventory. So I'm sure if you've been paying attention to the real estate market, something that you've been told is, hey, inventory is low, whether you're seeing it on the news or online. There is some truth in that, right? So we do have some numbers here to kind of give a little bit of insight. So right now in the greater Wausau area, we have about 153 active homes, of which 56 are available. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, last year, 2022, December, we had 141 active homes and 68 were actually available. So what does this mean? It looks like we have a couple, around 10 to 12 fewer homes on the market right now than we did in December. However, we have more active homes. So Cody's going to touch on this in a second, but what that kind of means is that we have a little bit higher buyer demand. Cody, what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so thanks for pointing out those numbers. A really great thing to reference there. What we're seeing overall is that really strong buyer demand coupled with typically stronger buyer demand that we get in the springtime. Being that the weather is a little bit warmer, kids are getting out of school, not quite yet, but here in a couple of months, it just makes a more convenient and easier time for people to move. So what that's translating to when a home is listed, let's say the typical home between $100,000 and $250,000, that home is probably going to have on average 3 to 5 offers on the table. And some of those A-plus homes, those really good ones that are, a lot of people are looking at, you're probably looking at, even 7 or 8 offers potentially on the table. And those houses too, coupled with multiple offers, they're probably going to be under contract within the first 48 to 72 hours. So it's really important too to get in the door right away in case you're interested. On the flip side, going up the price scale, maybe above $300,000, those homes aren't getting as many offers on the table, maybe 1 or 2, and they are taking a little bit longer to go under contract. I would say maybe a couple of days up to a week or 2. But sellers are still happy with the offers they're getting in pretty much across the board at all price ranges. Just be aware that if you are listing a higher end home, it might not sell quite as quick or go under contract quite as quick as some of those lower end homes. Now that said, so talking about pricing, right? Lucca, what are we seeing on the sale price? Has that really been affected by, the stronger buyer demand? What about list price as well too?
Yeah, Cody, that's a great question. And something that we're seeing is that list price isn't changing a whole lot. So the pricing strategy hasn't moved a whole lot over the past year. So what that means is that what the home goes up on the market for really isn't changing that much. The big thing that's changed over the last couple of months is that sale price, or what the seller actually kind of walks away with. And Cody kind of alluded to this in what he was talking about. But when there's a situation with multiple offers on the table, what we're seeing is, opposed to, last December, the winning formula was somewhere around that, asking maybe 5-10 over could get you the home. Now with, when you're competing against 5, 6, 7, 8 other offers, you got to come in a lot stronger. You got to be a lot more competitive to actually get it. So we're seeing the winning formula right now could be, anywhere from $15,000, $20,000, maybe even up to $30,000 over the asking price in some cases. So quite a big change from past months. So yeah, the biggest thing we're noticing is that walk-away number, that sale price is quite a bit higher than in past months. So just something to keep in mind as we're moving into the spring here. Something that we always get asked about, no matter the time of the year, is interest rates. And Cody, what can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so Thanks, Lucca. At the beginning of last year, the federal government chose to tighten their monetary policy, and with that, interest rates started to creep up pretty substantially from what they were, both anywhere from personal loans, vehicle loans, and mortgages too. Which, one thing I want to point out about mortgages, a lot of people don't understand this, that the federal government does not directly the rate does not directly affect mortgage rates. So whatever the federal interest rate is, if they raise it by, a half basis point or whatever it might be, interest rates on a 30-year fixed mortgage do not automatically go up that same percentage. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the government lenders that give money to a majority of the banks, how interest rates are determined typically are how many buyers are pulling out of that pool of money, as well as how funded that pool of money is. So the reason that we're seeing interest rates creep up on mortgages is because of the strong buyer demand and the tightening of the amount of funding that's going into that pool. But now to get into specific numbers, right now we're seeing interest rates bounce at or around 6.5%, depending on the week or the month. You might be a little on the higher or lower end of that number. Versus last fall into the early winter, they actually peaked up just over 7%. So interest rates are actually a bit more favorable right now today as we speak than they were a couple of months ago. And, we're seeing that buyers are, being a little bit more cautious about, maybe looking at what they can afford, but they're still putting in offers on houses well over ask, as you pointed out, and there's still strong buyer demand. So that's pretty much what we're seeing with interest rates. I'd like to have a prediction as far as where they're going to go, but I really don't know, and there's a lot of different things you can read or listen to on that. I don't want to make any predictions. I don't want to be wrong or mislead anybody. So we'll just kind of have to stay up to date, on where those are going. But Lucca, you want to give us a summary and finish us out here today?
Yeah, for sure. Cody touched on the interest rates really well. But just to give a high-level overview here, kind of what we're dealing with in the 2023 market is inventory has stayed somewhat similar over the past months and is not actually upregulated like we usually see in the spring. There's still continuing to be a very high buyer demand, a very strong buyer base, and we're seeing that homes are going for, a considerable amount over the asking price. So that final sale price is up. And like Cody said, interest rates, we're not 100% sure where they're going, but as of right now, floating around that 6.5%. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Real. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to myself or Cody. We would love to chat with you, talk real estate. If you have any questions, we'd be more than willing to answer those for you. Otherwise, if you're looking to buy or sell, we're more than happy to walk you through that process. Other than that, we'll see you in the next episode.